So I'm going to start with starting to pass these around. There's extra copies in those who are in person. There is a test at the end. So just be observant of what is inside the books. You obviously are not reading the whole book, but just take a gander and see what you can glean from that. And there's a copy of Before Us and Congregation Beth from 1955 to 2005 right here. So you're welcome to take that as well. So starting really at the beginning, the first words of the Torah are in the beginning. So we're going to go way, way, way back to where it started in a very Jewish fashion. But I wanted to start with explaining the name of our synagogue. All synagogues have a name that may look odd, sound different. Some synagogues share similar. So, details, picking words through that represent the community that you're trying to build or that you are building. So, you'll see many Beth congregations around the country. Some synagogues that share a name are related, some are not, we are not. So just wanted to show. Okay, so what does you have this first word in Hebrew right to left? So I'm going to start this over here. Bait, the word bait is what is first. House, ale of God. So our synagogue is the House of God, Potsdam, New York, Beit El, or Beth El. Bethel is a very, very famous place in the Bible, in the Old Testament. It is the only place mentioned just under Jerusalem as much. So it's the second most mentioned location in the Old Testament. So Bethel is really important to us. The synagogue name right to our space of worship and worshiping together. So in the we started. Anshe Zofen was the first synagogue that we are aware of, opened in 1873 in Ogdensburg. Anshe Zofen means people of the north. Is that. So Anshe Zofen was made around 40 to 50 families worked in the area, most rated to New York City, going up from New York City through working up the river. So that's a lot of Jewish people settled in this area. 40 to 50 families is a very large amount of Jewish people for an area like this. So that is a significant number for the 1800s. So that was something very surprising to me. I did not expect there to be that many Jews here that early on. So when it started, it was a group of Jews who were meeting on that space when it could for Universalist Church, the building. That was in 1925. It was a very grassroots operation. Everybody pitched in their fair share to make the building a warm environment and make it comfortable and a place where people wanted to come and worship. There was education for the children. There was a sisterhood, which is very for Judaism. sisterhoods were, it's really that feeling of the moms taking care of everybody. So a lot of sisterhoods are very active, some are not as active, but this was very active and active at that time. At this time, I'm going to use I'm going to use some words in Hebrew that I explain. If I breeze through and forget to explain it, please stop me. Please stop me. I love being interrupted. So at this time, this was a community, which meant they were very strict about the rules of Torah that they were studying and observing. And at this time, to say prayers, you need something. I mean, is we're not in little yellow guys. MINYAN. A minion is a group of 10 Jewish bar mitzvah males. And without 10 Jewish bar mitzvah males, you were not able to say certain prayers. One of the big one being the mourner's Kaddish, which we say together to develop people in mourning in their community, so they know that they're not mourning alone. So it's very crucial that we have a minyan. At this time, only men were eligible to be part of a minyan, and only bar mitzvah men were eligible to be part of a minyan. So that's going to change over time, and we'll see this, but I wanted to make that note that, our religion is a very, very rapidly changing one. It's set in, we have a set book, but our interpretations change regularly. So it's really nice to be a woman in Judaism in 2026 and not in 1873. For me, was very, very well attended, 40 to 50 families. They did not stop. They didn't stop running until closer to when Congregation Beth. So there were a lot of Jews still not. We'll see. We'll see here. What we call the bima, that has the Jewish star on it. And it looks like a podium, just like this. This is where the whoever was specifically a very Russian oriented area at this time. So they were very strict on the rules, more so than a mostly Yiddish speaking community at this time. So Yiddish is a mix of Hebrew, English, German, kind of mixed together, and it's odd. So that was the primary language spoken in this community, and that also was a surprise to me, because I come from Brooklyn, And in Brooklyn, I hear, you hear Yiddish all the time, but up here, I don't expect to hear that unless I'm in my own house and talking to my grandfather. So nobody really speaks Yiddish anymore, unless they're in very specific communities. This one happened to have been a Yiddish speaking community. I think that's so cool. So in 1930, this synagogue that was run out of somebody's home in different areas started to decline because their youths were becoming Americanized and Westernized. So as the youth of the community started to get more interested in American culture and less interested in religious culture, more English speaking was a big one. The way we dress is different, things like that. This population started to dwindle. So by the 1930s, there were very, very few people left. And they ended up moving towards Anshe, Zofen, and became members of the Ogdensburg Synagogue because they're to worship. Here, picture of, assuming by what I'm seeing on the table, is holiday that we celebrate every Friday into Saturday. Varying different ways of observing this holiday. Traditionally, no electricity is used. You don't drive. You don't carry money. You don't write. Your focus is your family, studying Torah, being together, being part of the community, and winding down from the week. So this is our seventh day of rest. So that's what I'm assuming is what they're doing here. That's what I'd like to think, is that it's a nice Shabbat meal, and they all look like my grandparents. So if you can tell by the hair. All right, now we're going to head over to Messina. Messina has an interesting history, and I'm going to get into that a little bit. So this synagogue, Adath Yisrael, Community of Israel, started as one minyan, 10 bar mitzvah men. That's it. They did not have a rabbi. They did not have nobody else. It was just them. As away from Governor, they were starting to grow and felt that they need to find new places to worship. They started worshiping in second stories. That was a big starting point for a lot of congregations, was an open floor plan second story of a building. So that's where they started. They would rent out old churches, buildings that can accommodate their size. In 1919, they purchased their building. I'll show you. Sure. So this is the synagogue in Messina. They purchased that in 1919, didn't open officially until 1920. And then in 1923, they purchased land to open a Jewish cemetery. And a Jewish cemetery is a little bit, there are different rules and regulations for Jewish cemeteries, and oftentimes Jews do prefer to be buried in a Jewish cemetery. That's not exclusive, but it's pretty normal. There is a misconception that Jews can't be buried with tattoos. We're good. The Torah instructs us to not alter our bodies in any way. However, these, while permanent in life, are not permanent in death. So that's like, I promise I'm Jewish, I am tattooed. So because of the synagogue in Messina, we do have a Jewish cemetery in the area, which is incredible for such a small, remote location for Jewish people. In 1928, many of you may know about the incident in Messina. There was a young girl who was 4 years old who went missing a couple of days before Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is our holiest day of the year. We are fasting from food and water for 25 hours. We are at synagogue praying. Yom Kippur is mostly about identifying that you may have made mistakes and hurt people without knowing it, and coming to terms with that and asking for forgiveness for the things that you did either on purpose or not on purpose. It is very forgiveness based. We talk a lot about giving back. So this is our holiest day. We also typically wear light colors or white to represent purity, as like this is our purest moment as a Jew every single year, and it resets us and we're able to move into the next year and take what we learned the year before and apply it to our next year. My favorite holiday, even though we're fasting. I love Yom Kippur. It's really, really special to me. So a couple of days before Yom Kippur, which is when most Jewish adults are super stressed out because they had just had Rosh Hashanah, which is our new year, and their houses are still messy and they still had food to clean up, and there's only a few days in between. A young girl went missing in Messina, and it was assumed that the congregation in Messina had performed a blood libel or a sacrifice of the child, which is typically, when you think of blood sacrifice, that typically coincides with Passover, which happens in the spring. This was Yom Kippur in the fall, so that doesn't really make sense. The president of the synagogue at this time had an adult son with cognitive disabilities, and they believe that when being interviewed, he may have said something concerning that brought attention to the community. A few days later, Yom Kippur hits, the girl was found during the day. She was just lost in the woods. So this is actually the first and only documented record of an accusatory blood libel against a Jewish community in our country. So that's kind of a dark and spooky mark on my, but it is very interesting to be, one of one. So that so this synagogue went for a pretty long time. They did not close their doors officially until 2012. So they were in service to the Jewish community for quite some time. Okay. Let's move on. Now we're getting to home to Bethel, House of God, as we've discussed already. We opened our doors in 1955. We're where you see us next to the Five Guys. Yeah.
I'm just curious, why is the God got a G and a dash and a T?
Oh, yeah. So part of my religious practice, I don't write God's name where it can be destroyed. And that is a common thing for Jews. Some don't. As many Jews as exist on this planet is the amount of ways to practice Judaism, and then add like 4 or 5. So every Jew does things differently. It seems silly that I tattooed myself, but I won't put an O in the word God. This is just, I was raised a certain way, and this is how I practice. Because I may delete this document from my computer, I'm not going to write God's name on it. So that's just a personal preference. You won't see that everywhere, but you will see that somewhere, some places. So at the end of World War II, the GI Bill was in effect, and the local universities that were already open started getting an influx of students, which brought an influx of professors, many of which were Jewish. So at this time, we're having a lot of people moving into the area, a lot of Jews moving into the area, and the major figures of the Jewish population in Potsdam felt the need to start thinking about incorporating a synagogue here. So during the 40s and 50s, prayer was very informal. There were only about 20 Jewish families volunteering their time to make Jewish life a priority here. 20 is what I expected for Ogdensburg, not for Week 50. 20, it's a very small group. In 1955, Congregation Beth was purchased for $20,000. They did a lot of fundraising and grassroots organization to build up that money to make sure they were able to put a down payment and make payments. A lot of people paid their dues 2 years in advance. So they had some upfront money to be able to pay for a mortgage on this property. And it is the same property that you see still buying.
Was the building there when they purchased it?
The building was there, so it was being used as storage, actually. Right here. It was being used as a warehouse for a businessman in Potsdam. He then sold the building to the Boys Club of Potsdam. Is that it? Boys, I always want to say Boys and Girls Club. So they bought the property. Then the property became a fraternity house for Clarkson University, and then back to the original owner who turned it into Congregation Beth. So it passed hands, but it came back to us. So I want to read you an excerpt from this book that was going around. Oh, that's the inside of our synagogue. I think those are still there. Something changed. Okay. So I'm going to read this. This is from the book, The First 50 Years. That was the smaller of the two books that came around. The founding of Congregation Beth and the development of an active Jewish community dedicated to the perpetuations of Jewish values and ideas is a tribute to the men, women, children, and local college students who contributed to this venture. Establishing and maintaining a Jewish community in a remote area of New York State where there are perhaps more than 100 Jews interested in participating in Jewish religious and cultural activities is a difficult task. A great deal to the founding members of the congregation who have throughout the years, leaders of supper programs, the summer picnics, discussion groups, Hanukkah parties, Purim festivals, community Passover seders, and other religious events. Presidents of the congregation and the executive board, members, children, and college students all played key roles. So before the purchase of the building, Mr. Sam Sussman held services in the open floor plan, second story of his home, which is very common for the beginnings of synagogue. That was most of the people who attended the services were college students at that time. And he used the space as a young adult meeting area so Jewish college students could get together in one specific location. So that was the primary basis of the Jewish population at that time. And this was from Clarkson, the Crane School of Music, and what SUNY Potsdam was the normal school. So those universities. In the early 40s, Sam purchased 81 Market Street, which he used as a warehouse for his business. He then sold it in 1842 for the Boys Club. In 1942. If I'm saying I'm in the 1800s, I'm wrong. Please don't let me be wrong. I'm in the 1900s, okay? In 1952, the building was taken over by the Clarkson fraternity. In 1955, Congregation Beth became a corporation with the help of an attorney from New York City, and decided to open up a Jewish space in Potsdam proper. So that is when Sam Sussman, along with 20 other families in the community, purchased the building back, and it became what it is today. They immediately began fundraising, which included donations, dues for the next 2 years paid in advance, like I said, and promises of members of the Messina and Ogdensburg synagogues who lived in Potsdam or closer to Potsdam, like Norfolk and Norwood, to join the new synagogue. So we are already fading out a little bit in Messina. Ogdensburg was mostly faded out with the Jewish population. Potsdam really had become the central hub of Judaism in the area. So, pictures do I have for you? Where is our rabbi? I have very limited knowledge of Christianity and Catholicism and other religions, except for my own personal research. I am aware that many or most Catholic, Christian, Muslim buildings of worship have a leader who is ordained or goes to school and is educated in a certain manner. Not required for very, very specific things. Birth, weddings, death are what you need a rabbi for, and bar mitzvahs. So major life events, birth, bar mitzvah, hopefully before wedding, and then hopefully death after that. So we at Bethel do not have a rabbi. There was a rabbi who was present for a few years and moved away from the area. So at the current time, we are a lay-led congregation, which means that people in the congregation are leading services. That means we can't do certain things without the help of a rabbi. So we're able to call a rabbi in from Boston that we really like currently, who comes in to do these High Holy Day services for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. There's a rabbi in Plattsburgh who helps with bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah in our children. I don't know what happens with weddings here yet because I haven't been to one, so I'll find that out at my first wedding here. So we invite them to come visit. I do not expect there to be a rabbi, a full-time rabbi here at Bethel. We do a really good job of leading ourselves. So one of the primary goals of Bethel at their beginning was to educate the next generation of Jewish children. Here you see pictures of kids working, and this, you can see that's the dentist parking lot right there. Working in the garden. The religious education here in Potsdam is extremely vibrant and important. It is a very small group of children. Yeah.
When you open up a synagogue, is there a process of consecration or prayers that you say to dedicate it or anything like that?
Not necessarily. So there are legal things that we have to do, obviously, to incorporate, set up financial situations to make sure that there's a bank account and that we're not earning money. Our Torah that we have, one was donated from a family in the area. The other two, one came from Messina, one came from Ogdensburg. So you ideally would like a Torah in your space. Our buildings all have, you may have seen in doorways, a little slanted object planted on the doorways. So that marks basically a Jewish space. It's called a mezuzah. Inside, it contains a scroll of prayers. We kiss it on our way in and acknowledge that God is with us in that space. So you put the mezuzahs up and you're good to go, essentially. So yeah, and that's what they did. It was it is a lot of legal and financial planning, but to worship, all you need is a minion. So that makes it really easy. Okay, so we have that. I'm going to talk more about Jewish education in a little bit because it's important to talk about what we're currently doing with it. Once this synagogue started, pretty soon after, women were included in the menu. So this congregation went from pretty basic conservative, which obviously middle of the line, and started moving in a more reform direction. Reform is a little more loose. It's more focused on applying the Torah to the modern day life and adapting to modern day life. It is an inclusive movement, very song heavy and music heavy. So they did start to become more reform. When that started happening, that's when women started getting included in the minyan. And that is, it's a significant thing, because when you have a small group of people and you need 10 men and you can't find 10 men, you're in big trouble. So having women as part of the minyan is part of the reform movement, one that I'm appreciative of because of my gender. I grew up in a very Orthodox community, so we were completely separated by gender. Women sat on one side behind a wall, men sat on the other side with the rabbi. There was no touching between men and women unless they're related by blood or married. So the reform movement for me was a little bit more comfortable because I was able to pray with my husband. My daughter can be with her father during prayer. So that's for me. It's what I like. Currently, we're in the middle of a conservative reform kind of area. And it's a very flexible synagogue and a very flexible worship style. It kind of depends on who leads it. When I lead services, it's a little bit goofy and weird, as you've noticed about me. When others lead it, it's a little bit more traditional. It just depends on who's standing up there during that day. So, your test. What is the common theme of all of those books and what I've been saying? What was the most highlighted topic in the books? If you looked at the table of contents, what did you see the most of? Families. We would not be here and we would not continue to thrive without the people who exist in our community. Our community is currently very, very, very volunteer-based and hands-on. I personally am on the board. I co-run the Hebrew school. I work the food festival. I come here to talk to you guys. I get to do things. So it's really exciting to be part of a community that encourages people to go out in public and share our religion and our history. But it's people and it's children and it's our religious education program that is going to really keep propelling us forward as we introduce new Jewish kids to a life of what Judaism looks like in a modern day society situation. So our kids are learning Hebrew. They're learning how to read. They're learning how to write. My daughter has made it multiple letters. She's 4. And she made it multiple letters into the alphabet. I'm very proud of her. We're really trying for her to be bilingual. It's not working very well. She got very far in this during Hebrew school. So we're really proud of her. We have 12 kids in our Hebrew school right now, really phenomenal children and human beings who are really understanding the true message of Judaism, which is to light spaces that need it, to give when you have, and to world. So that's what we are meant to do here on earth as Jewish people. And our kids are really kind, generous, lovely human beings, some lovely little Jews who are doing some amazing things and will continue to do amazing things. All right. So I wanted to share some firsts with you for our community. Oops. 55. The first formal Yom Kippur, which is a very major thing because it is the holiest day of the year, 1955. The first bar mitzvah, which I think is so cool to be the first kid bar mitzvah in a synagogue. Like that I would be putting on my resume. Buddy Alpert, I was the first person to have a bar mitzvah here. Our first annual food festival, have any of you been to our food festival in town? If you haven't, I highly recommend it, not only because I'm there, but I also make the blintzes now. So please come and eat my grandmother's blintz recipe. It's really delicious. So yes, definitely come and visit us. We do that in late fall, early winter, well, late fall. That was the slogan at the time when they started it, where you can eat Jewish cooking, even if you don't have a Jewish mother. And food is central to our culture. We are eaters and we are cultural eaters. So there's a lot of foods that are very significant to us that we continue to eat to this day. Except for gefilte fish, most of the kids won't eat that. They're wrong. It's delicious. In the 1970s, so about 20 years after opening, women were included in the minyan. This is significant to me as one. So that maybe not significant to everybody. I think it's significant, so I put it in there because it's my presentation. Our first website was built in 2001. And I put that in twice. So now you better not forget that the website for Bethel was created on January 31st of 2001. Okay, this comes straight from our bylaws, mission statement. We are a vibrant, egalitarian congregation welcoming people of all backgrounds and approaches to Judaism. We serve the religious, educational, cultural, and social needs of the Potsdam Canton community. Congregation Beth emphasizes understanding and celebration of Jewish liturgy and song, while striving to help congregants explore contemporary understanding of such Jewish values as Tikkun Olam, which is repairing the world, Tzedek, which is justice, and Tzedakah, which is the feminine version of the word Tzedek, which is giving. So Tzedakah is giving to those who need. And Gimilut Hasadim, performing deeds of loving kindness. We have a word in Hebrew, which is called chesed. Chesed is the type of loving kindness that we expect from God, which is love that needs no reciprocation, and there's no reward for giving this sort of love or compassion. And I have it written on a sign in my house. I'm very chesed related. So this is our big one of performing deeds of loving kindness without any need for reciprocal action. And then shalom, peace or wholeness. So this is what we focus on as a community today, and we will continue to focus on as a community in Potsdam. Another big part of our community is the Hillel. There was a rabbi named Hillel. That's what this organization, Hillel International, was named after. It is basically the university grouping of Jewish students. So many universities will have a Hillel organization on campus. Some universities hire rabbis to serve as the rabbi for the university, and they will do Shabbat dinners every week. They'll do holidays there. They'll do all kind of Jewish cultural programming for those students who want to participate on campus. We have the 4 college Hillel system here because we have the 4 universities. I was part of it when I was a student at SUNY Potsdam a little bit ago. just a little bit. And we continue to attract students from these colleges to our area. We every year have a service led by the Hillel students. We just had it a few months ago. They did a phenomenal job. It was a really great service. They attend regularly. They help with Hebrew school, attend for Shabbat and holidays, and are a very, very important group of people for us. And that's how we started, was college students. So that has never really changed. And then we have our future. I'm a little mushy about this. Our religious school program is out of control good. I come from a very large synagogue in Texas. I went to grad school in Texas, so we had about 70 kids in our Hebrew school. We have 12 here. There is something magical about our 12 kids that is just something that can't be replicated. So what we can do, and the best thing we can do, is to give our children positive experiences in Judaism, teach them how to apply Judaism and the teachings of Judaism to the world, and share that culture with them so they understand what it means to be a Jew moving forward. It is a lot of cultural significance in our religion. It is a religion and a culture, not just a religion. So I have pictures here. I will point. This was our Purim festival. This frog right here, I don't know if you can see that frog. For Purim, Purim is a holiday where we dress up. So I bought an inflatable frog suit. It's my favorite costume I've ever worn. This is our Hebrew school-led service where the children were able to lead us in prayer. They did a phenomenal job. We threw candy at them. They loved it. It was great. It was a great time. This was our Sukkot celebration where we build a temporary hut outside and decorate it. The Jews eat all of their meals during this holiday in the sukkah outside. It represents the harvest season. So that was a beautiful dedication and day for the kids. And then top right, we have the upstairs of our food festival, which is a major event for our synagogue every year. There's a whole committee that plans it. We are so proud of being able to share our food with the community. It is exquisite. And if you have not come, please come eat a blintz. Eat the blintz. You must eat the blintz. And that's where we are. That's where we are currently. We are focusing on our children. We're focusing on our community. Congregation Beth regularly donates to many different organizations throughout Potsdam and the surrounding areas. We want to keep our community as well taken care of as possible, because without community, we don't have anything. So that's what I have for you today about our history and where we are. And I would love any questions. I'm not an expert on anything except for technically Tuba because I have the degree, but if I don't have an answer, I will find it for you.
I have 3 questions for you.
Okay.
Is your religious calendar based on the lunar?
Yes.
Cycle? Because you said Yom Kippur is a fall thing.
Yes.
But it can't be lunar if it's fall, right? It's going to change 11 days every year.
Which one's lunar? We're based on the one that changes. We go off of the Hebrew calendar, our Hebrew calendar. So we're in the year 5780 something. And so yes, we change throughout the year. It lands in the fall somewhere every year. So this year we had Yom Kippur in September, I believe. Next year it's going to be a little bit later in October. And all of our holidays are that way. The only holidays that do not change with the Hebrew calendar are new holidays like Israel Independence Day, Yom HaShoah, things like that that were made after biblical times. those usually stick to an American westernized calendar.
Second question, the Hebrew school, that's just a weekend thing, right? They still attend
Oh, yes.
Kingston.
Yes, so they're in public or private, whatever school they want to be in. They come to us on Sundays. We meet and learn songs and prayers together. We then break the kids out into groups and learn Hebrew from a workbook with some teachers. And then we have our older students go upstairs into our sanctuary and learn about the Parsha, or the Torah portion of the week. The younger students stay down and we do some sort of activity, arts and crafts project. Our young kids are pretty young, so making them sit still that long is not gonna work. So that's how we work. And then we have snack, we pray together, we drink juice and eat challah, which is our braided bread. And
my last question is, there's a difference then between Orthodox and Hasidic?
There is. So the Hasidic movement follows specific rabbis, mostly from Eastern Europe. They have the Hasids, the Hasidic people, and Haredi people who are a little bit more intense. What we always grew up is learning was Haredi Jews are more like Amish. They don't use modern day technology, modern day clothing, things like that. So it is Torah, and that is it. Hasidic people, extremely, extremely religious, probably have a TV, but only certain channels and a kosher phone, which means only a flip phone and no access to the internet. Then you go to more modern Orthodox, which is more modernized. People are using smartphones, a lot more business people, doctors, lawyers, but still following very strictly in what the Torah says. Once you get to conservative Judaism, we're not following the Jewish law any less than a Hasidic Jew does. We are interpreting differently, and Judaism is very heavily based in interpretation. So for every page of prayer we have written down, there's like half a page of footnotes on interpretations. We are very chatty people, if you haven't noticed. And it's everybody, again, as many Jews, I don't know if any of you are Jewish. I'm assuming there's one Jew in the room. There's 3 types of Judaism in this room right now, because that's just how it works. And I change every single day. So we're very commentary based. So it's not that we're observing less, we're observing differently, and we're trying to adapt more towards modern day society with those values in place. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
Do you happen to know any descendants still living in our country?
Yeah.
Some of those original.
Yeah. So, and it's funny that you say that, because I was reading through the book. 2 of our congregants currently, Brenda Yarkog and Adam Jaffe, are in this book. That's so cool. So I saw their last name. I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
I'm in the book.
You're in the book? That's so cool. So yes, there are descendants, there are people. It is a smaller population than it was, but absolutely there are founding members in the area. The Jesser family is one of the big families that were founding members. So we do have that, and people do come to visit who have moved away.
Not really a question, but I live right around the corner from the synagogue on Garden Street, and my house was owned by Herman Nadowitz.
That's a big name in the book.
When we moved in, there was the base plate of a mezuzah by the front door.
Yeah, so you have a little bit of Judaism in your house.
Yeah.
Just a little extra protection, that's all it is. It's a little added protection from the elements.
So what in Torah is your religious book? How does that differ from, I guess, the Old Testament?
The Torah is the Old Testament, $5. Yom means day in Hebrew.
Okay.
So Yom Kippur is the day of I don't know if I want to use reckoning.
Atonement.
Yeah, atonement. It's a lot of different, you can use a lot of different words for it, but that's the day of. So like today is, I don't know what day of the week it is. So every day has a name. Shabbat has its own name. So that's all that means. Some holidays don't involve the word yom, but it is because it is the day of something so important.
Couple of
Yes. Yeah.
I find this absolutely magnificent, the tour through the history, and so much of it I had not really understood. These communities bringing light into spaces that need it, and the reminders that there were these communities before are important. I think for me, I get excited when I see this in the door, and so I'm curious. I know some of the structures, the one in Messina, for example, Chamber of Commerce or something, would still perhaps have mezuzahs. Are there other?
It
could.
So when some mezuzahs are left, some are not. When I move from house to house, we just bought a house here when we moved. I moved all of my mezuzot, which is the plural form of mezuzah, from my old house to my new house. I didn't leave anything behind. But that's just the way my mezuzah was built, is that I could take it fully off.
Yeah. Okay.
So some people don't bother with it. Some people just need the decorative protection, which is the outside that you see. The inside is the scroll. That's the important part. So you really only need the scroll, but you have to protect it from the elements. So we have made our mezuzah. So it's very beautiful. I have some gorgeous ones at my house. We get them from Etsy. They're so gorgeous from Israel. But it's the scroll that's the important part. So as long as the scroll is with you, that's what you need.
Okay. Mezuzahs. Okay.
Mezuzot, that's another big word for you.
Your key.
Plural of mezuzah.
Are the books available to, like, in the library or something, if I want to get one out to read? I mean, we looked at them, but I didn't read them.
I believe so.
These are our copies, so everything in here lives in our research room, so yes, they are available.
Can't take that.
But they're for sale all the time at thrift stores and
They
bookstores.
are.
I have two copies.
And you can also
Here.
get them, if the library that you go to doesn't have them, you can request them through interlibrary.
Okay.
So that's an option there. And this incident in Messina book is a really good one too. You like a drama.
I heard about that, read about, there was something here a while ago that
Yeah.
mentioned it.
Yeah, it resurfaced in 2012-ish, that people started talking about it again out of nowhere, seemingly. But again, that was something that was just a.
I think I heard it here when Brian Thompson talked about, or maybe it wasn't Brian Thompson, someone talked about who cooked thing in the North Country, and I think it came up then.
It was, so the KKK was involved in local government, and police and fire. So with members of the KKK involved in the search for the missing child, there were anti-Semitic undertones to begin with. Then we had somebody with cognitive disabilities who was maybe confused or having a difficult time communicating. Plus, anti-Semitism is unfortunately a reality for us every single day. It always has been, it always will be. That is part of the Jewish lifestyle, is overcoming the fact that not everybody likes us. I'm very nice, so you should like me. I am a very nice lady. And most of us are. So, yeah, so that's where that KKK connection is they were involved in local government and first responders.
A lot of the family names that I see in the book are ones that I knew from, I came here in the 60s, and a lot of businesses that were owned in Potsdam, by Sperlings, and
Captains.
so chaplains, yeah.
And that's typically how a synagogue forms is you have Jewish-owned businesses with nowhere to worship. And they get tired of worshiping on the second story open floor plan, and their community grows beyond the capacity of the space, and we get this beautiful building and this beautiful opportunity to worship together in a big space. But yes, I mean, I think that's how most religious spaces are started, is just a grouping of people. And for Jews immigrating from Eastern Europe especially, it was to find work.
And for me, I grew up on Long Island, so I had a lot of Jewish friends where I lived.
We're on Long Island.
So, Miami.
I'm from Hewlett. I went from Brooklyn to Long Island, so. Hewlett is a very Jewish neighborhood on Long Island, so.
I've asked many people.
A couple of questions, if I may. You mentioned 1873, there was a pretty large group came to Augsburg area, in the St. Mark's anyway. So my second question is also geographic. So
Yeah.
Economic driver that brought them here. Any ideas?
No. No. Do you have the answer to that?
Not exactly, but I think I may be able to shed a little bit of light on it. In 1868, Ogdensburg was known as the New York of the North.
Yes.
So it was a big deal to be in Ogdensburg. It was a very industrialized city. There were, I think, 2 railroads that went into it, which was a big deal at that time.
Thank you.
So I think that has something to do with it, but I'm not sure.
There was a lot of problems.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
And the second question is, many of the ethnic groups that came here, I mean, throughout the North Country, there's Irish settlement roads and English settlement roads, and people grouped by language. Did that happen to the Jewish community?
It did in certain places. So like in Governor, you had a very dense population of Russian Jews who spoke Yiddish to each other. So there was that language net keeping them together and keeping them as a community. Currently, no, that does not exist.
No.
Yeah, but we do have quite a few people in our community who are Israeli who do speak Hebrew as their mother language. That was my first language. And it does bring you together and make you feel that way. We don't have a real, I don't want to use the word settlement, but settlement area. We're pretty diverse and far out. That became more prevalent over time. So the group spread out more as time went on. It started pretty close knit. And part of that is on Shabbat, we don't drive. So you need to be walking distance to a synagogue on Shabbat. So if you can't walk to where you worship, you don't worship there, you worship at home. And you can't say certain prayers without 10 Jewish men. So you need to be able to get to synagogue. So a lot of the reason why Jews live close together and close to their synagogue is because you have to walk there. So there's just that location element to it. Yeah.
I'm from Fine, which is not too far from Biltmore.
Mhm.
And I remember my father, who was born in 1929, would talk about Saul Kaplan, who was a peddler at that time, and would come around to sell whatever he had. And there was nothing ever bad said about Jewish people that I ever remember hearing growing up.
That's good to know.
The scene was different or whatever.
It exists everywhere. And every group of people have somebody who does not like them in some capacity. It's not unique to the Jews in any way, shape, or form. And just,
I remember as a boy, we would shop for shoes, kept in this store in Illinois, and loved it.
That's good to know. I personally have not experienced any anti-Semitism in the area. Which is great for me because I was living in the Bible Belt, so it's much safer here for me now. Yeah. Any other questions or comments I can?
So is walking to the synagogue, is that still in practice today?
Depends on your level of observance. Some Jews are what we call Shomer Shabbos, which means they observe all of the rules of Shabbat. You don't cook, you don't clean, you don't drive, you don't turn on electrical, you can't start a fire, that's what the commandment is. So some Jewish, and I know a couple of families in the area who are Shomer Shabbos and don't come to our Shabbat services because they do live too far away. So they pray at home. But I would say most Jews outside of very specific, very religious communities do not observe Shabbat in that way, including my family. We focus on, first of all, cleaning because I have a 4-year-old and she makes a mess of my house. So improving our home and spending time as a family. And that is how we respect Shabbat. And that's how we observe Shabbat, is being together. And we keep our phones away. We rarely put on TV unless we're going to have a movie night. And we really focus on just being together and playing and enjoying each other's time. Yeah, I think that's more common now. Anyone else?
Questions?
I can answer questions about tuba too. I have a master's in it.
Do you ever play tuba in school
Oh,
for the kids?
Yeah, not in school. You can catch me at the St. Lawrence Symphony Band. If you ever want to see me play tuba, I'll be there. But yeah, I don't play tuba for the kids. Song is very important, so having a musical background is helpful for me because I'm able to sing with them. And we create our own tunes, and I do bar and bat mitzvah training, so I'm able to help them with that trope because it's a pretty difficult process. So yeah, no. But we are going to be hopefully have a klezmer band starting at spring soon. So a klezmer, yes. My husband works at Crane. He's looking to start a klezmer band. Has a class there, so hopefully that'll start soon, and you can hear some fun stuff.
Do you consider yourself a historian for this program, or?
I do not. I consider myself an adoring fan of the synagogue and somebody who enjoys research.
Okay.
And I feel that I can represent our synagogue in a positive way, but I do not identify as an historian for the synagogue.
I need your help.
Okay.
The Potsdam Public Museum has recently acquired the cassette recordings of all of the people featured in Before Us. I'm told there's more on the cassettes than went into the book.
Okay.
I
would love to
want to
come
get
by.
those details.
I'd love to come by and chat with you about that.
I have already sought out some digital
Okay.
transcribed
Okay.
that tapes from the 1980s.
Okay.
So
I don't know. Maybe let's share. I'll share contact information afterwards. That would be very cool.
Well, thank you so much, Casey. This was really enlightening.
Thank you for having
Very
me.
interesting presentation. Let's give her. Apologies, we're gonna have to figure out our internet situation. People said it was very spotty hearing you online, so I'm not sure how the recording will turn out. If it's okay with you, we could at least post the PowerPoint.
I can send you some notes to include as well.
Okay.
Because I do a lot of talking. Not
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
reading.
Unless you wanted to do it again at home. Okay, definitely include that with some notes. So yes, feel free to look at anything, the stuff all lives in our research room. You can handle it, just a little research. Some of the same things Casey said, I put on a little, just to give you some background for Jewish American Heritage Month. We do have limited edition. These are the only ones that remain. A 1979 quarterly, the one that's featured here, which was almost like a book review that came out the year after the incident at Messina was published, kind of discussing the book and some of the background. We have one of those available for purchase, and then another quarterly where we did also had some book reviews, but it does talk about some of the history of some of the Jewish families in the area. This was in 1982, and that is the other one that's featured up there, and I think it talks about one of the rabbis who was there at the time, who was actually at Bethel, Beryl Bryn Gloss. So we have several copies of these if anyone's
if you're interested in more of the families who built the community before us is a really great, it's very, very detailed. Not to say that the 1955 to 2005 is not that way, but you get a lot of different background and more description of like what the families were like. So it's a really interesting read, just to learn about who was in the area. It was fun. I live in Norwood, so it was fun to see that there was a Jew in Norwood at one point. That made me happy. I like to think maybe they lived in my house. There's something attracting us all to that one spot.
We do have also a special 100th anniversary program that was produced for Anshe Zofen in Ogdensburg. So it talks about some messages from the rabbi at the time and some other messages from the president. And this is pretty cool because it's a lot of what we do here is related to genealogy, and it has a roll call. So it really, a good listing of the congregation at the time. This is why we love these kinds of things, because even if it's somewhat recent history, it's documenting people that are maybe no longer here and no longer with us.
Yeah, in the 1955 to 2005 book, you'll find board minutes from our earliest board meetings, membership lists. They even put emails in there, which I thought was a little funky, but hopefully many of those are not being used and get spammed by having it in a book. But a skit that the sisterhood had put on, there's a lot of fun stuff in that book that just represents the warmth of our community and the real serious dedication and passion that people put into it. So it is a building that is kept together by everybody's hands working together.
Is Congregation Beth still in existence?
They closed in 2010.
There is a
12.
cemetery.
Well, yeah.
But the cemetery remains, and we do bury people in the cemetery.
Where is it in Messina?
I don't know. Okay, I don't know. But
Cemetery is across from here.
Do you know the synagogue in Poplar Lake? I know they used to give tours.
it is one of those beautiful buildings. It's so gorgeous. I've been once. It's really beautiful. I've only been once.
Years ago, the Hebrew school joined with them to
Yep.
do programming in honor time.
Yeah, and they did a big event recently. So I went down for that big event that they did for like an anniversary. And it was just a gorgeous space, a really warm community.
I thought last night there were maybe 3 elderly people left to care for it, and they would open it up on maybe the weekends for people to look at.
Oh yeah, I don't know a whole lot about that. I'll have to look into that.
I can check it out.
But it's if you're in Tupper Lake, it's gorgeous.
I drive by all the time.
It's gorgeous.
I'm gonna get a chance to go and look.
Yeah.